And now we present to you America's quintessential iconoclastic anomaly. Wow. In talk radio, your host, Joe Cristiano.
It's time for us to take back control of our government now before this bureaucratic, oversized and self-serving federal government starves us of our property, our freedom, our rights, and our liberty. To do this, we must shed conventional thinking regarding our political structure. We need to be revolutionaries in thought. I said revolutionaries in thought. Dissidents in action. Only after we recognize what our government is doing to our freedom and our Constitution will we start taking it back. And welcome to the hallowed halls of the University of Logic, better known as Cristiano's Conservatory, correcting convoluted conversation. This is Liberty Talk Radio. I'm your host, Joe Cristiano, on 1170 KFAQ. Welcome, everyone. Well, folks, we have a full boat today, and boy, we are jammed. We have people literally standing up here in the studio. I want to get to them. I want to introduce everyone here so everyone knows, the audience knows who's speaking and who's here. But before we do that, we have these two emails, and they're getting old.
I know. You've been telling me about these emails, Joe.
I know. I'm sorry. I apologize. I get them. Now, one is an old one. It's 3 weeks old.
3 weeks. Yeah. Okay,
but,
3 weeks.
But it's critical because it speaks to the heart of the way we think as Americans. Okay. Now, I'll read, synopsisize.
Is that a word?
No, there's nothing.
Okay.
I made it up. Put it in a dictionary. What can I say? No, he said this listener said his name is Jim, and he's from Oklahoma, and he says he's been listening to this. No, not you, Jim.
Yeah.
The Schnitz Show, and he was really concerned about his insulting, derogatory statements that he was making about people who questioned the official government story of 9/11. He says, I've researched the topic extensively for several years, and he says the story is full of holes. He says, from a free-fall collapse, 3 towers, the building number 7, NORAD stand-down, inconsistencies in Pentagon. I can go on. It's a long email. I'll just synopsisize it. And he said, with hundreds of books, documentaries, and websites that discuss the topic, I encourage others to listen to Patriot Questions, 911.com. The site is nearly 4,000 testimonials. 4,000 of engineers and military personnel, etc. He said, to quote J. Edgar Hoover, the individual is handicapped coming face to face with a conspiracy so monstrous he cannot believe it exists. And it's very, very true. He says, I'm convinced that Schnitt is either an idiot or a government shrill. Your thoughts? Yeah. He said, but your thoughts? I said, well, look, it's strange that I get to drive around, run my errands and do it in the afternoon, and I do catch Mike Schnitt's broadcast. Now, Mike Schnitt is a very, very intelligent guy. I mean, he's syndicated here on 1170 KFAQ.
That's right, yeah.
Right? Yeah. He's a very intelligent guy.
Intelligent, yeah.
I think he's got probably one of the broadest bases of subjects that he covers of any talk show host that I know of.
Oh, sure.
And I know a lot of them, right? And so he's intelligent. He's broad-based. He brings in excellent subjects. Now, he has 3 hours, so he brings in subjects that I would not touch because they're minutia to me. I mean, this woman in Minnesota said so-and-so. I don't bother with stuff like that. But, it's 3 hours that Kelly does a good job of it. However, it really, surprisingly, I listened to this broadcast.
Oh, the one they're talking about in the email.
Yeah, the one they're talking about email. And I was as shocked as this listener, because he was so adamant. Now, this is what I think Mike Schnitt should have done. Mike Schnitt should have said, not Schmidt, Snit, I'm sorry, Schnitt. Mike Schnitt, the Snit report, right, should have said, I thought he would have said, was that we don't know the truth about 9/11. There's theories out there. They're not absolutely proven, whatever, the government hasn't addressed it. Whatever. He could have given some, not credence, but he should have questioned everything. And he didn't. He said anyone who believes in any of these theories, a nutcake, he says, is a wacko job. Now, what he did when he said that, in my opinion, is that he was saying that the government told the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
Now, who's the nut job there?
Now, the problem with that statement is that the government has never once in history historically, you cannot find one instance, and we can go back to the Second World War. We can go back to the. I'm not going to go to the Civil War. I'll go to First World War forward. I'll go 1910 forward. Not once has the government told the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
Well, of course
they told a version of the truth, and then 50 years later, guess what? We find out, well, not exactly, not really, right? This is exactly what happens. And this is exactly what's happening here. Now, by him saying what he did, is saying that the government was told the absolute truth and everyone else is out of their minds. Now, for a guy that has this level of intelligence, this broader base of knowledge, this education, this experience, I was shocked by his answer. And I can understand why this guy wrote such a blistering, because he was a Schnitt listener, and he wrote a blistering email. I won't read the whole thing.
Why did he write you and not Schnitt?
Yeah, that's my question.
Yeah,
well, maybe he did.
And it's Todd,
I'm just saying
Todd
that,
Schnitt, by the way, not Mike. It's Todd Schnitt.
It's Todd Schnitt.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you called him Mike. Unless that's his bastard brother, maybe, or something.
I'm sorry.
I don't know.
I'm sorry. Yeah. And so he's absolutely correct, in my opinion. I think Schnitt, in this case, and he's not an idiot or anything like that, but he's absolutely wrong in the approach that he takes. And if he does take that approach, he's got a problem. He's got a real problem, and he's going to have a real problem with a lot of his listeners.
We should always question.
I agree.
We should always
question. Jim, I agree. All right. Now, the second one is that I get asked and I get emails saying, we know the economy is not exactly what they say. It's not exactly what they say it is. And they say, what should I do? And you asked me that question last week.
Yeah, I sure did.
Last week, right? Yeah. And I never know the answer. I say, well, what do? Well, you prepare yourself. You go to. And this week it haunted, that question haunted me.
Really?
Yeah, it did. These questions bother me. I wish I got some sleep. I'd feel better. But no, seriously, I think about this stuff all the time. And I decided I'm going to give an answer that's a little bit different this time.
Okay.
Here's my answer. In today's environment, live every day as if we are already in a depression. Think of your life every day that you are living, that we are in a full-scale, hardcore depression. What would you do today? What would you do tomorrow morning when you woke up? I mean, would you go, well, geez, I got a down payment for a car. I'm going to go out and buy a Cadillac Escalade. I mean, would you do that? No, in a depression, you wouldn't do that.
No, of course you wouldn't. No, you'd be holding on as much cash as you can. You would keep
the car at home and have your chauffeur take you to work. Better known called as a bus that I do. I love taking the bus. I do. I love taking the bus. I walk 2 miles to a bus stop because I love taking the bus. I say, well, I'm going to my chauffeur. I read. I do this. I could afford. My son says, they said, Dad, why don't you buy a new car? You got an old car. I said, you can buy any car you want, any make, any model, any price. I said, that's not exactly true. I said, that's not accurate. I can own any car dealership I want. But I digress. But my point being is that live every day. Think, when you think of everything that you're doing, think we are already in depression. What would you do? That's my answer to everyone. So save your emails from now on in. Let me introduce who we have here.
Okay, yeah.
Right. First, we have our first guest. We have is Wendell Graham. He's an alumni representative for the state of Oklahoma for the Oxford House, and with him is Laura Johnson. And Laura Johnson is what is your title? You're the Oklahoma Outreach Services for the Oxford House. Is that true?
Yes, for northeastern Oklahoma.
Northeast Oklahoma. Now, let me tell you, I met Wendell in the coffee shop. We were sitting online waiting for coffee. We started talking. He told me about Oxford House. I said, anyone who is providing a service to the society and who dedicates their time gets at least 4 minutes of airtime on Liberty Talk Radio. Wendell, Lauren, the next 4 minutes are yours.
Go ahead, Lauren. Great. Okay, well, we're here today representing Oxford House. For anyone who has not heard of that before, we are an international nonprofit organization of self-run, self-supported, sober living houses. We are... having said that, we are here to provide housing for people who have discovered that they have a problem with drugs or alcohol and are actively seeking recovery. Our houses are democratically run by themselves. We do not have any type of doctors or counselors on the staff. The houses are run by the people who actually live in them. And many people would say, well, where are these houses at? And to that, I would say you would probably never drive by an Oxford house and know that that's what it actually is. And yet here in northeastern Oklahoma, we actually have 33 locations. Jeez. We're all over Tulsa. We're in Broken Arrow, Owasso, Jinx, Muskogee, and Claremore. And basically, we're just big, good-looking houses in very nice neighborhoods. And
are you supported by the government or contributions?
No, we're self-supported. Our houses are paid for by the people who live in them. And because of that, the Oklahoma Department of Mental Health Substance Abuse Services is extremely supportive of Oxford House as an alternative for people who are seeking recovery from addiction. We would rather see these people get treatment and get the help that they need than incarceration.
All right. Now, what's your success rate? Just give me a general idea.
We've actually been studied very long-term by DePaul University, and they say if a person stays with an Oxford house for 13 months or more, that they have an 87% chance of never using drugs or alcohol again for the rest of their lives.
Right. And no government bureaucracy, no departments that we have to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars of salaries for each person to administer this thing, I assume. Except I think Lindell makes a few $100,000 a year, right?
No way. In fundraisers, maybe.
Okay.
Maybe in fundraisers.
All right, now, how do people contact you? And if they want to send you a donation, which I'm going to encourage my listeners to do so, dig in, give something. These people deserve it. This is what we need, folks. People helping people. We don't need government. How do they get to contact you?
Our state website is oxfordhouseok.org. We also have a Facebook page, which is Oxford Houses of Oklahoma. And from there, anyone, from either the state website or through the Facebook page, they could contact myself directly. And we would be more than happy to accept any donations that were available, whether it was monetary or furniture. Very good. Because we are a nonprofit organization, I would be more than happy to provide the proper documentation that someone would use for a tax donation.
Wonderful.
Right off.
Okay, Wendell, you're sitting there. You want to say a few words. Come on,
I'm the alumni chair for Tulsa, and any person that leaves Oxford House in good standings and want to stay clean and sober can be an associate of Oxford House. What we do in Oxford House, we go back and we give back and support. We give support by being role models and working with the houses, the chapters, and the state associations, and the World Council. And we're not just doing work for helping houses. We're helping anybody that's looking for sobriety and in that manner.
Okay, very good. All right, Wendell, Laura, thank you so much for coming here today. You're welcome to stay for the whole program. I mean, I applaud your work, and this is what people helping people. See, folks, the government's not involved, and this works, believe it or not. But stay tuned. We're going to go to a quick break. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. I know who you are. I now have a solution to solve all insane thoughts that people have, or I can cure insanity now.
Really?
I can cure insanity. I know.
How do you do that?
Right. It's very simple. All insane people have to do, like myself. I was going
to say, like you.
Listen to the news and listen to our world leaders.
Oh.
Because
that's novel.
They drive you so crazy. A nutcake would listen to them and say, "I got to go straight." Right? They would wind up at the Oxford House.
We'll have to have a new house for them.
I listen to stuff. I cannot believe what I hear. Mario Draghi. Now this Gavo. Now this guy. And he's Italian now. My whole family's Italian.
I know.
Goes way back. I can call any Italian anything I want. All right. I deserve an Italian from New York. In fact, my wife. Her family's from Ireland, but she's really Italian because the Romans went to Ireland, right? So she's really a Roman.
Joe.
Yeah, so she's like, actually, my wife is my 400th cousin back, something like that. But no, really, this guy is a nutcake. This guy rubs me every wrong way you can think of. This is what he says. He says, in order to continue, whatever that's supposed to mean, the European recovery, which there is no recovery, right? He is going to initiate, because now he's the head of the European Central Bank, negative interest rates.
Huh? A what?
Negative interest rates. In other words, they are going to pay you to borrow.
Wow.
Now,
that's the hook, Joe.
Everyone who's insane just went sane because they said, I can't go there. Now, this guy is a top world-class, world
nutcase
leader, right? Nutcase.
Sounds like it to me, yeah.
This Scavone ignorant, I can't stand him. I can't stand this guy. But just think of the logic, all right? You lend me money, right? I give you less back after a period of time. Now, am I missing something here? No, this is what they're doing.
I like
this
that,
this is what they're doing. You would think that this guy would say, this is a problem.
You mean they make payments to you after they lend you the money?
Well, what they do, it's a small amount. I think he's starting with 10 basis points. But still, you want to make some money? Borrow $1 million, right? Put $10,000 or $1,000 in your pocket and return them $1 million. That's the way it works. That's exactly the way it works.
Wow.
Negative interest rates. Now, that's because the European Union is doing so well under their auspices that they can give away money free. In fact, they pay people to take money, which tells you how much this money's worth, which is nothing, right?
That is bizarre.
That's very strange.
That's strange.
I've never heard of anything like that.
Now, and then, now, that's the good news. Here's the bad news.
Okay.
The bad news is he follows that by saying, and he says, and I'll do whatever it takes. Well, what do you mean by that? What do you mean you'll do whatever it takes? You'll do whatever it takes to do what? It doesn't answer that question, but he'll do whatever it takes, I assume, to resurrect the European community, the economy. Well, you know what that reminds me of? My wife and I went to a jewelry store that was closing down here in Tulsa.
Okay.
Now, my wife knows about gems and rocks. I mean, she's like a geologist.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
But she goes and she looks at this stuff. We didn't buy anything. And we went there, and there was a big sign in the place, and it said, everything must be sold. And they had a last day on it, like a Sunday, whatever it was, Everything must be sold. So I went up to the woman. I saw this beautiful, looked like a beautiful ring. I don't know what they are, like diamond. Big diamond. And I don't know how much it was, really expensive. So I said, now, all this must be sold. I said, yeah. I said, you're sure now? She said, absolutely. I said, fine. I said, when's the sale over? She says, actually, in 2 hours. I said, oh, today's the last day. She said, yeah. I said, fine. I said, I'm going to come back in an hour and 29 minutes, an hour and 49 minutes or something like that, or 50 minutes. I'm going to come back. I'm going to buy that ring. She said, that's fine. And I said, I'm going to offer you $50 for it. She says, what are you, a wise guy? I said, no. I said, I'm looking at the sign. It says, everything must be sold. I'm offering you $50. You have to sell it. That's what your sign says.
Yeah.
No, yeah. I'm not. This is God's honest. This is a true comment. It's my wife. Of course, my wife walks out of the store. She says, here he goes again.
Yeah.
And I go, no, wait a minute. Now, what do you mean by that sign? She said, well, everything must be sold. I said, there's $50. So you have to sell it. She said, no, it's, $5,000. I said, no. You must sell this. I'm not paying $5,000. I'll pay you $50 for it, or $500, whatever you want. But I'm not paying $5,000. It must be sold. That's what the sign says. Of course, now she got angry. She threw me out.
Well, of course, yeah.
Can you imagine that throwing me?
No,
a
can't
nice
imagine
guy
that
like
at
me.
all.
Never
a
happens.
Nice guy like
Never
me.
happens to you, does it?
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
My point being is that everything must be sold is the same stupid comment this Gavone, Draghi, says what he said, and I'll do whatever it takes. I put both, when I read that in the Wall Street journals, I said to myself, everything must be sold. I don't know why the first thing that came to mind.
Everything.
Everything must be sold. Because these are worse than. Now, let me give Draghi some suggestions. I got some suggestions. Where are my suggestions? Here.
Okay.
I said,
yeah,
maybe, just possibly. I know this is ridiculous, outlandish, off the cliff type stuff, but maybe the real problem is not positive interest rates, which are only a couple percent. Maybe the real problem, Draghi, is everyone's in tremendous debt. How about that?
Yeah,
right?
that works.
How about solving the debt problem? No, can't do that, right? How about increasing productivity?
Oh,
how about
that's novel.
Outlandish, right? Mm-hmm. How about initiating something that we haven't heard since the Depression is frugality.
Oh.
How about some frugality? Now, I'll tell you where I got that word from, Peter Schiff. If he has listened to this program, which he should, because I'm a Peter Schiff fan, and I spoke with him last week.
I got that from my grandmother.
He talked about we need frugality, and I'm going to give Peter Schiff credit for that because he said Cristiano stole that from me, and he's absolutely correct. Right? How about this word? Now, you probably haven't heard this before. I may have to spell it for you. Savings. Right?
Yeah.
All right, here's another one. Now this one I'll have to spell. Prudence. What about prudence? And what is prudence? That's skill and good judgment in the use of resources, right? How about that?
Makes
I know,
sense.
outlandish, right? How about innovation? Innovation, all right? How about sound money? Instead of just printing money out of thin air and giving it, in fact, paying people to take paper.
Maybe
how
have
about
gold
having
to back it up or something.
Maybe gold, silver, copper. I don't care what it is, How about lowering the cost of production? How about, let's say, what else we have? How about the problem that they have of an aging population? Maybe they should consider that's a problem, right? And then how that applies to the welfare state in Europe. How about the overburden of regulation? Oh, let's not address that. No, let's address that. And now, here's one that you probably are unfamiliar with. European bureaucracy.
Oh,
no. Let's not address that, please. I mean, they're making trillions of dollars a year, these bums. Every bum, they're all criminals, sucking all the money off the street from the regular guy, and then they want to know there's a problem. Then we get negative interest rates, right? And then how about the situation with the high unemployment? And how about welfare programs that actually incentivize people for not working and not being productive? Now, this is off the top of my head. I must have written this down. Didn't take me more than 20 seconds. Now, did he address any of those in the Wall Street Journal article? I went on the internet. Nothing.
Joe,
absolutely. But you know what he's going to do whatever it takes, and he's going to initiate
need to have a good
negative
attitude.
interest
You
rates.
need to have a good attitude about
are
it.
they under some kind of they got to meet some type of goal or something that they got to lend so much money, so they just do.
Orwell said this, right? No, you got to keep the people's mind goofed up enough so you believe this crap. Now, the way they're going to improve their GDP, though, is that, as you know, I think the Netherlands, Germany, Greece, and somebody else, there's 4 countries that recognize prostitution, and it's partially in their GDP. But now they want the European Union to include prostitution and drug dealing in the GDP. And they figure it's going to increase the GDP by 2%. Right?
What?
Do you know what that... Now, I can do 2 programs on this. Right. They want prostitution and drugs. Right. Now, could you imagine... Now, which means that they have to make it legal first, because if they don't make it legal... Who's going to carry around a ledger book, if you're doing it illegal, So, by the way, I'm going to break into your house, and after I steal all your stuff, Wendell, I'm going to put out a 1099 and stick it on your door. They're not going to do that. These people are maniacs, So I figured that, why don't we just go to Sexlandia? We should have a place called where there's two particular professions, right? You're a drug dealer or you're a prostitute. And what you do is you take that same dollar, you give it to the prostitute, right? The prostitute says, hey, what do I get for you? So you get drugs, and you switch this dollar back and forth. Now, if you have enough people doing that, you will have a GDP in the billions of dollars every year, and trading that $1, right, and producing absolutely nothing.
Only if they do it.
And by the way,
1099.
that's exactly where Europe is going. Don't go away. We're going on a break. You know, I mentioned with Sexlandia.
Yeah,
You know,
Sexlandia. Yeah.
Do you know my agent? My agent used to be the mayor of Sexlandia.
Really? Gary did? Well,
Yeah.
Gary.
Yeah, he got
wow.
thrown out of
I
office.
feel honored to know you. I mean,
He got thrown out of
he
office.
got thrown. How come he got thrown out of office?
He couldn't perform anymore.
Oh, Joe.
Yeah. Anyway, I mean, his duties, you know, as a mayor.
Well, of course,
You got
yeah.
a dirty mind. You guys are filthy.
Hey,
you
we're
know,
filthy,
you disgust me. You disgust, you know.
He's
you
disgusted
disgust me,
with us
yeah.
all the time.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, thanks for staying with us. This is the second half of the program. And folks, I just want to mention first that we do have sponsors of this program. They're dedicated sponsors, and they're dedicated to liberty, each one of them. I will not have anyone on this program that I do not frequent, that I do not endorse, that I do not use, and philosophically is not on the same page with our freedom.
Except for our candidates. Which we got one on the hot seat tonight.
And I'm talking about McCool's Firearms, Randshaker's Audiology, and the Green Beetle.
Yeah.
And we are very, very selective. We have people who want to advertise on this program, but they are inconsistent. You know, they just want airtime, and we won't do it. Now, I don't make any money on this thing. You know, I put more money into this program than anyone else. But we do this as a labor of love, and everyone needs to participate, just like Wendell and Laura, what they do, they make a contribution to society. Hopefully, this program is some sort of contribution to society. Sounds weird, but maybe it is. You know, and
free
our
thinking.
George does.
Yeah, critical
right.
thinkers.
But with us right now, we have someone who we hope, when he gets into office, makes a contribution to society. And his name is Cliff Johns. That's Johns as in plural, Johns with an S at the end. Cliff is an Oklahoman. Right, you're in Broken Arrow, right?
Yes, sir.
You're in Broken Arrow.
Good
and
man, Broken Arrow, good town.
He is running for under the Republican ticket as a Republican candidate for District 66, House of Representatives. Now,
So what's he
I
running
already
from?
scolded him. I already scolded him because
Running for
Oh,
76.
okay. I thought you was running for
he's
something.
running away. But I already scolded him. I said, people say, "What district you in?" I go, I don't. I said, I wish you guys would just put a map up there and say, if you live here, map. It's simple
Vote for
map.
me, yeah.
Vote for me. Right? Yeah. Well, let me tell you, District 76, 76.
76,
Yeah,
it says.
runs. It's sort of diagonal. 61st, about 71st, to Elm Place on the east, Garnett West, and 111th or 101st?
101st. Goes from
101st on the south. Right.
Yes.
All right. That's about. Did I get that right?
Yes, sir.
See, look, I know.
From
did.
Elm
I know
down to
about-
Garnett, from 61st over to 101st.
Yeah.
169,
So if you're in that
corridor.
area, right?
Yes, sir.
169 corridor.
We'd like you to listen very carefully because we're going to drill him today,
Ah.
and we'll see what he has to say. Now, tell me, why is a nice guy like you running for office?
Well, I think that there are a number of things, a number of issues that need to be addressed in the state legislature, whether it involve taxation, education, regulation, these sort of fraudulent idea that the legislature can delegate to agencies and administrative entities rulemaking authority, which essentially combines powers delegated to each branch. James Madison specifically said that you cannot create quasi-legislative, quasi-judicial, quasi-executive bodies and give them the power to basically legislate and simply, rather than calling it a statute, call it a quote-unquote rule. That is contrary.
That's all we do today.
Yeah, that's right. I mean,
That's exactly
we've essentially created a fourth branch of government to basically allow politicians to allow these agencies or these boards to do things that they either do not have, I guess you could say, the expertise or the guts to go ahead and do themselves. And if there's ever a problem, they just throw it back on the board or whoever's on there, and without taking the rap for what was done and what the problem is.
All right, now, what's your background? What makes you qualified to talk about any of this stuff or even to run for office? I know I'm not qualified to do anything.
Well,
My wife says that, at least.
Well, it's whether you're talking about qualifications. I hold a bachelor's degree in political science from the University of Oklahoma.
Okay.
I have a law degree from the University of Tulsa. I'm a licensed attorney. I've also spent a good chunk of my life studying and researching the foundation of this country, the founding fathers, their writings. And so I guess you could say that I have a multi-interest sort of portfolio in regards to what prepares me to take on responsibility of being a state legislator.
So you've always had an interest.
Oh, I've always had an interest. When I was a kid, my grandparents started taking me around the country. They were in the Holiday Rambler Motorhome Club, and from the age of 10 to 21, I spent 2 weeks going to all sorts of neat places. The Freedom Trail, went to Washington, D.C., been to just about every historically relevant landmark in the country. And so, you know, when the National Park Service is sort of taking you on is basically your summer school teacher, it's sort of a neat thing, and you learn that there's a lot more information than what is in your history books a lot of the time.
Yeah. Now, you know, I think I'm going to speak for the general public.
Yes, sir.
All right? And I have no qualifications to do that, no right to. But it almost seems like we always talk about the, when we say Congress, we think of the Congress in Washington, D.C. But just as important, if not more important, is the Congress right here in Oklahoma. And we don't seem to put the weight nor the interest in Oklahoma Congress as we do in in the U.S. Congress.
Oh, I totally agree.
This
goes back to the 17th Amendment, where you basically took away from the legislature the power to choose United States senators. In other words, there was an incentive to keep people to keep interest high, and people obviously are always interested in who's going to be their next United States senator. And basically, the legislature made that decision, and so people would pay closer attention to who their legislators were, because the legislators were making the decision as to who goes to Washington.
Right. Right. Well, you know, it seems, and I'm digressing. Of course, I always digress, but it seems that when an issue comes up, the first thing we think of is who's our rep, right? Like when John Sullivan, was our rep. Bridenstine. Who's our rep now? Bridenstine.
But they don't know who their state representative or who their state senator is. Right?
I don't know who my state. I don't know. I'm professing total ignorance here. I don't know. And I would never think to go to my state rep, but I would think of going to my federal rep.
Right. Well, the media bears a bit of responsibility in this area too, but they also have bills to pay, and they're they have to keep their doors open. And I guess they figure that people simply aren't interested in what's going on down in Oklahoma City. But because of issues that have come about of late, in particular the Common Core issue, that's brought a lot of more people to the realization that what does go on in Oklahoma City is directly relevant to their everyday life.
Well, let's assume for a second, and I know this is not the case, but let's assume for a second that the our reps in Washington vote in Common Core, but the Oklahoma legislature, let's say, assuming that if you were elected, you said, "No way, Jose, it's over. We ain't doing it."
Yeah, no,
could you override that, or
Thomas Jefferson would say you do. Thomas Jefferson said the true old Republicans stand of the line, and he also, on two separate occasions, articulated the doctrine of nullification, first in 1798, again in December of 1825. And he died 6 months later, July 4th, 1826.
Nullification. Could you explain that to us? What's that?
Nullification is basically where the state legislatures say there are only a specific set of enumerated powers found in Article 1, Section 8 of the Federal Constitution, the powers specifically delegated by the states to the federal government upon entering into the compact known as the United States of America. Any step beyond those specific enumerated delegated powers are contrary to the nature and the word, the spirit of the compact itself, and are hereby null and void. That's basically what it is.
Well, basically, they're telling you in street Harlem street language, go jam it.
Yeah, that's basically what they're saying. I think whenever I hear state legislators say, "Oh, well, we can't do that," I say, well, what are you going to do if they try to take away our guns? Are you going to let them do that? And they're going to be like, oh, no. So I don't think you can some people try to have it both ways, and they'll say, oh, well, we would do nullification there, but we won't do it here. So I think people just need to get a little bit more Jeffersonian and say there are things that as a state legislator, I'm not going to allow the federal government to do, period.
All right, here's the thing that it gripes me, and I know little about it, and you got to clarify for, and to the audience as well. National Guard. Whatever happened to the National Guard? I mean, it used to be that the National Guard was a state institution.
Right, the old
now
militia.
it seems like we have the National Guard in Afghanistan. I mean, they put them overseas when they need some extra soldiers. And
right, in my courses, I teach American history and American federal government at Tulsa Community College, and so I have a number of people who are returning home. And this puts a tremendous strain on families. Of course, my grandfather was a Thunderbird. He was in the 45th Infantry Division in the Guard. They actually had to go out to eastern Oklahoma one time to supervise an election because it was so crooked out there back in the day. But
you mean my Uncle Louis was running, right?
Yeah, it was an Italian election.
Well, it was crooked, but it was a great. He was a good man.
He was honest.
Well, I mean, under the old militia system that was instituted under General Washington, he actually came up with it. Upon turning 18 years old, every young man, until they were in their 50s, I believe, when you turn 18, you go down. Then 6 months, you have to sign up for the militia. Then you go out and buy your own guns, buy your own ammo. You buy your own sword too.
I have no problem with that.
I think it'd be good.
I have no problem with that because I believe that everyone born in a country is that militia.
Well, Switzerland still has that system.
Absolutely. And how many times have people attacked Switzerland?
Right. No, and it's exactly right. And people don't get into wars of choice and just adventures if everybody knows that their kid has if there's even a chance that their kid might get sent overseas.
Right. Yeah. But these clowns, these criminals that we have in Washington, they'll send your children over there and then say, but this is for the common good and whatever. But they never take any skin off of it.
Right.
They send theirs over to be board members of big corporations.
That's right.
Instead.
Oh, that's right. Oh, you mean like Hunter? Hunter Biden. Yeah.
I mean, but there's a lot to be said for getting back to a system where everybody has some skin in the game, not only in regards to the militia service, but also in regards to taxation. I mean, whether you want to do a flat tax or a consumption tax, what we have now is completely unacceptable. People say they want to keep a progressive tax. Well, whose big idea was that? Well, it was Karl Marx and Frederick Engels. They said it was just a way for them to confiscate and redistribute wealth.
Right.
Because that wasn't Thomas Jefferson's system. Thomas Jefferson said in order for taxation to be just, it must be uniform.
That's right.
Whether it be on consumption or income.
Yeah.
And so we've gotten so far away from founding principles that you almost have to go into your own independent study even in order to even know what these people said, because they don't teach it in the school.
Right. Let me back up for a second. What's with the situation with the National Guard now here in Oklahoma? Are they under the governor or are they under the vice president? Under
the Constitution, the governor of each state, and Thomas Jefferson actually writes a letter about this. He said it was part of the wisest conservative sort of invention ever, was basically each individual state's governor is commander-in-chief of their militia.
Right.
In order to not only decentralize power, but let's be honest, why do we have these rights to bear arms? In order to make sure that we never have a tyrant basically consolidate all power. And that's why you have concern over the changes made to the National Defense Authorization Act that basically gives the federal government to march into states simply because of their own subjective determination that the governor is violating
That's what
the
we
law.
have now, though.
No, we do because of what happened after Hurricane Katrina. Because during Hurricane Katrina, Governor Blanco refused to basically give President Bush the authority to take control of the National Guard to send troops down to New Orleans.
Right.
And so people use that as an excuse to basically circumvent the Constitution, because under the Constitution, before a president can send troops into a state, there has to be a specific request from the legislature, and if the legislature's out of town, then the governor.
Yeah, the legislature of that state.
Yes, that legislature of that state before the federal government.
But that's all gone, right? Because
it's still in the that's still in the Constitution. But the federal government has written a statute, and the president has signed it into law and reauthorized it, which basically trumps the it doesn't trump it. It violates the Constitution. It basically acts like the Constitution is moot on the subject when in truth it is not.
Right, but who does the National Guard report to now? The governor,
the governor
or the
of the state, unless they're in actual service of the United States. Then the commander-in-chief of the National Guard is the president when they're in actual service.
Yeah, but then how do they wind up in Afghanistan or Iraq or wherever? How do they do it?
Well, some people believe that's a misuse of the military, but if we're in a war, the National Guard can be called up to go into actual service.
But we're not in a war. We're invading other countries.
Right. I mean,
when there's no active war. I haven't.
Are you talking?
Lindell, how many Al Qaeda are on your street?
I don't see any.
Oh, okay. I'm going to come there. You'll see Al Qaeda. No, really.
Well, then,
there are none.
yeah.
See my point. My point is that we keep on saying, well, there's a war going on. Well, Washington created a war, right? Then they say, well, we're at war. We can justify everything. I
think
that
you're
to me
talking
is
about what
bogus.
Senator Paul has sort of characterized as this continual idea of war. We're sort of in permanent war mode.
Oh, absolutely.
Right,
Yeah,
and that is, it's not only dangerous to civil liberties, but it's also one of these things that involves economics, because we're basically printing more paper, and the only you can't afford to do this. I mean, it's just a reality.
Well, what would you, if you was elected, would you try to get all these guys back, rescind that situation? Is there anything you can do, or it's just gonna be status quo? I mean, because you're powerless. Not you personally, but your position will be powerless to do anything about it.
In regards to Afghanistan, they've been living in the 8th century for a long time, and in regards to Iraq, they have some semblance of an they have an educated populace. Of course, I'm glad we're out of there. But Afghanistan is I'm trying to use the right word here. It's not a nice place. It's not an educated place. They don't want to change. They want to live like Afghanistan's lived since a long time ago. That's their deal.
But my point is, what do you do with the soldiers that are there? Would you?
Well, no, I bring them home. To be honest with you, I don't believe that we can afford to have troops in South Korea on the levels that we have right now. I don't believe that we need troops in Europe of the levels we have right now. We've basically incentivized their welfare programs.
I'm going to hammer you now.
Yeah.
You said the magic
Hammer,
word.
here comes the hammer.
Here comes the hammer. Right?
There we go.
All right. You say at the levels. How about zero level?
No. Don't get me wrong. I think that we ought to have people at our embassies protecting our people. But I don't believe. Thomas Jefferson actually didn't
disagree
believe
with that.
No. I'll give you that.
I'd say hell with them.
Listen. But
go there on your own risk.
Here's the deal. Thomas Jefferson actually would agree with you. He didn't want him anywhere because
Tom and I are good friends.
No, I know.
Way back.
He basically wanted to. No connections with any of these European people. We'll trade with them if it makes us some money. Yeah, sure. Anything else? No, stay away from them.
Right. Well, here's my
Yeah.
point. We have 43. Is it? Someone help me. 43 or 48 bases in Germany, right? Now
I don't know how many.
No, I know there's
I
at
know we
least
had
43. There may be 48.
Amount of
Yeah.
numbers.
Well, you have to maintain a place
we had
of
50.
Europe, maybe.
We had 50 some odd. We closed a few of them, but we have 43 bases. That's 43 or more. Okay, guaranteed 43 or more. All right, in Germany, and they say
You need Ramstein. You don't need any
How
others.
about none?
Well, you have to maintain.
Wait! Don't. You said the magic word. We have to. We don't have to do anything.
No. I'm saying I know we don't have to, but it is smart to maintain a basic strategic air base in the middle of Europe.
Why?
Because we have problems in a lot of different places.
We don't. I have no problem.
No, listen.
Lindell, let me ask you. How many problems do you have with NATO?
I'm inclined to.
I have no problems with it. I have no problems at all.
I'm inclined. No, I'm inclined to go down the road that just says let's bring everybody home.
Yeah, why not? I mean, we can say this. Of course, there's problems in every part of the world.
No,
but
and I don't think we should be. I don't think we should be getting in other people's business. I think they ought to stay out of ours.
Ecuador should have a base there. Then.
No. We don't need to be in Ecuador. We don't need to be in any more places.
Ecuador. I mean, using the logic that we need a presence so that Ecuador can say the same thing, right? Ecuador,
well, I think the best way to kill the statist mentality in Europe would be to pull everybody out, because then they would have to actually provide for their own security. And as you know, it has been U.S. dollars paying for their security since World War II that has subsidized the nanny state in Europe.
Right. So as a candidate, you don't have a problem pulling it all out.
No.
Okay.
What do I get for the money that we spend over there and we're taking care of their security? Do you and I get?
You get a free vacation to Sexlandia.
To Oktoberfest.
Well, I've already been there. They threw me out.
So we can Sexlandia.
I think that's why Europe is Sexlandia.
That's all you get. No, but really, it just rubs me. We don't even know how many bases we have around the world.
No, and I agree, and I believe that as a candidate, it is good to begin from your standpoint and say, no, we're going to pull them all out, because I think that makes them start reevaluating.
Prove to you that you really need them, if you did.
Well, we have to borrow money to keep them alive anyway.
Well, no, I mean, we're borrowing money to do all sorts of outlandish things. I mean, every one of these ridiculous experiments, say in Dr. Coburn's report that he's outlined in regards to spending that doesn't need to be happening, all of those things involve robbing your grandchildren. I just don't understand how we can continue to do that.
Yeah. Well, now, which issues do you think are the top issues for someone in the capacity that you are going for?
For the state legislature?
Yeah.
Well, I think that first and foremost, we need to make sure that our children have an environment conducive to learning, with discipline in the schools that teaches real history, real civics, that gets us back to the system that worked, that made this country great, the system that says that computers do not make kids smart. Thomas Jefferson didn't have a computer. Noah Webster didn't have a computer in the classroom. It's good to have a computer, teach them basic skills for research, for writing papers. But for mathematics, writing out the problem and being able to show how you got from point A to point B means a lot.
Okay.
And it's also about discipline in regards to showing, it's not just about looking at a little chart like they've been doing. It's about, doing things right. And it's also about making sure that they know the history of the country in order to know where we've been, how we got here, and how to turn this country around.
You press my magic button. I speak to teachers very often. I have teachers in my family, nice, wonderful people. I mean, they're just wonderful people. You mention history, they lock up. Because they don't know history. They just memorize what they've been told to teach their kids, which is all wrong. And when I asked, I said, well, that didn't seem to have happened. And they cry, they get mad, they don't want to talk to you, and there's an argument in the family. I can discuss nothing with the teachers in my family.
Well, this enriching these, also the testing.
Not only my family, but I've done this with, excuse my, I'm interrupting you, but I've spoken with people that I've known who were teachers, not family, bike riding or whatever. I say, I got a question. You teach history, right? Yeah. They go, yeah. What about this? They don't discuss it. They get angry.
Yeah, I actually got sent to the principal's office one time. It was the one time my mother did not get angry with me. She actually took up for me because I corrected my civics teacher in 8th grade, and she knew I was right and he was
we
wrong.
have 2 minutes left, but I want to give you enough time so you can give people information about your campaign.
Sure,
right? So I want to make sure
Joe.
we don't run out. I'm sorry, we're running out of time. Just one question: who's responsible for children's education? For children's education,
who's responsible?
Yeah,
and in the end, it's the parents, and that's why you should have local control of schools where parents make the decisions.
All right. Okay. All right. Good.
Amen.
All right.
I'm gonna take your history
We have about a
class.
minute and a half to go, right? We have about a minute and a half.
Yeah, about
a
minute 30.
I want to give you the next minute to talk about your campaign, how people can learn more about your policies, your stance, and if they want to support your campaign, whatever. The next minute is all yours.
Well, thank you, Joe. I appreciate you, everybody, for having me out here, and it's good to be here. My name's Cliff Johns, and I'm a fifth-generation Oklahoma. I'm a graduate of Union High School, the University of Oklahoma, and the University of Tulsa College of Law. I'm a conservative constitutionalist, a licensed attorney, and I teach American history and American federal government at Tulsa Community College. I believe that we have gotten away from allowing local control, or I should say not allowing, of protecting the Jeffersonian American tradition of local control of schools. It says that parents and local teachers know what's best for for the children in their area, and essentially we've gotten away from that by allowing the Department of Education on the state level to basically inundate our schools with a bunch of trash. You go through the Oklahoma standards right now for social studies, the Oklahoma C3 standards for social studies, you'll find that in grades 9 through 12, American history begins in 1878 rather than in 1492 or in 1760.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Cliff Johns, for being here. Thank you, Lindell, Graham, and Laura Johnson. Okay, got everybody for there. Thank you very much for being our guest. And this is the end of tonight's program. We'd like to thank our sponsors for the financial support. And we'd like to thank you for listening in. Folks, you can further the cause of liberty by recommending this program to your friends and let us hear from you. Our email address is comments@libertytalkradio.com. Remember, you're either allowing your liberties to be taken away or you're striving to protect them. Unfortunately, folks, there is no middle ground. With that, until next time, I'm Joe Cristiano. This is Liberty Talk Radio on 1170 KFAQ. Stay well, stay tuned.